Almost all of the footage in this video is taken from the World Cube Association stream of the North American All-Stars, as broadcasted by Happy Feet Productions. Thank you to my channel members, Phil, Ryan Eckersley, and Crystal Cuba. The North American All-Stars was one of the first truly elite events in cubing. You had to have an official sub-7 3x3 average in order to even compete in this 30-person competition. It was run as an experiment to create a more spectator-friendly format for cubing, which I think succeeded. So a massive shout out to the Midwest Cubing Association who put on the event, and Happy Feet Productions for broadcasting it. Without either of those groups, this wouldn't have happened and this video would not be possible. But without further ado, let's get into the best and worst moments that happened. And at the start of the first group, we were able to miss the very first solve of this new and exciting competition. While the commentators discussed the size of the mall that they're in, Aaron Jake Wong would get an 8.5. Luckily the camera does switch to him and we get to watch the time-based timer not scan his ID card for about 30 seconds. The production crew weren't the only ones to fumble, however, as William Greninger fared about as well as the former South African president trying to pronounce beginning.
In the beginning.
He fumbled his way through the F2L transition and then drudged through the last layer. It turns out that everyone is susceptible to nerves, even the fastest solvers around. His next solve would not be captured live, as we were instead watching Michael Nielsen crank out a 7, but luckily we get a slow-mo overhead replay which reveals exactly what we all expected. Nerves were to blame. Opening up his average with a 13 clearly had him rattled to the bones, as the shakiness of his hands could measure on the Richter scale. Or was out there like Jesse Pinkman. Or looked like Tweak from South Park. For what it's worth, his solution was fine, he was just not prepared to perform it. Now his highest solve in the average was almost double the required qualification time, and he was counting a 10. Some would say that this would put him under more pressure to perform, but it seemed to have the opposite effect. His average was already cooked, and he was well aware of this. Since his average was cooked, there was no more pressure to perform, and the third solve was a clean 7.0. He'd go on to drop 2 more low 7s, but the counting 10 was simply too much weight to pull and he could not qualify for the next round. Oh, and the entire time this was going on, Stanley Chapel was solving. We only got to catch one solve because we were just watching Greninger's collapse live on stage, but Scalpel was also there, I suppose. The good news is that Greninger was on the same table as Michael Nielsen, who had dropped the first sub-7 average of the event, and because of the wide camera on the table, we were able to see that. But we soon move on to Group 3, the median group of Round 1. Carson would get the first solve and show us through the overhead camera that this scramble actually has infinite blocks. He'd get a clean F2L before just falling over and dying on OLL. Don't worry though, he has one more trick in his bag. The worst timer stop in the world. For a nice break from all of this pressure and nerves and struggling and joking, we'd cut away to Ryan Pilot, who's about to get the chillest 7.8. Nice. It's also worth shouting out Varun for getting the first 5 of the comp, 5.00, but it was completely off camera and we didn't even get a replay. RIP. However, Caleb Chen would avenge him by dropping a 4.9 while the cameras were on him. Never in my life have I seen someone lock in so hard on an anti-soon to do an algorithm that was not just anti-soon. We didn't get an immediate replay, however, as we quickly went to watch Brennan Lin solve. After Brennan's solve, we did get a replay of Brennan's 6.11. But at the end of round 1, Group 5 would walk out with the best solvers in the tournament. Luke Greiser, Max Zhao, Dylan Miller, Matti Hiroto Inaba, Luke Garrett, and your number 1 seed, Timon Koloshinsky. Right out of the gates, we see that Timon is back on his color neutral arc, dropping a solve on Red Cross. For the uninitiated, Timon has a history of being fully color neutral for a few months, and then going back to mostly dual neutral, and then going back to full neutral. Indeed, in a podcast after NA Champs, Timon would confirm he's mostly white-yellow neutral, but his bias is getting weaker.
So I'm technically color neutral, but I have a very heavy bias towards white and yellow. Although today it was less heavy. It just depends on the day. Today I just take the cube, and I was like, oh, that's a red cross.
Right.
But on his second solve, he'd return back to his white-yellow roots and immediately get a 4. Yeah, neutral is a strong word. Most solvers would get a pretty underwhelming result in this first round, and Timon would almost be no exception. If it wasn't for him counting his 4 by getting the world's most convenient 4.1, this average would have been kinda lame. Okay, no, but seriously, look at this solve. The pseudo slot to end F2L was pretty creative, but apart from that, this entire thing was just served on a silver platter. 4 move cross, 3 pair, 9 move ZBL, and he ended off by attacking the camera like the cat from the one gif. Round 2 would be defined by a very funny storyline in which arguably the best 2 solvers at the event failed to make top 2. This was started in Group 1 by Brian Johnson, a solver that was seeded around the middle of the pack for the comp. He unleashed the dog within and got overall PR average 574, which put him at the top for the time being.
Maybe 597. Let's see. So that would be. I think Brian just might have locked in. He might have locked in a PR. So that would be.
Actually, he almost certainly has.
587, and then.
He's guaranteed to PR here. WPA 574, 583 is what I have on my sheet here.
The raw aura of getting overall PR on the All-Star stage live on stream created a catastrophic aura debt on the stage, which needed to be repaid in blood. One such sacrifice was Madi Hiroto Inaba, who opened up the average by counting a mid-6. Despite dropping a 6-7 and a 6-5 back-to-back, he proved he really was that guy by clutching out a nice average and even getting BPA. However, he still wouldn't end up in the top 2 going into round 3, where we all know he belongs. But counting the 6-5 does not compare to the complete assassination of Brennan Lin. The Dark Aura forces on the stage wanted him gone, and that's what they got. He was coaxed into dropping a high 8 for his second solve and then subsequently counting 2 7s. The best possible average did not save him. Do not make finals, do not pass go, do not collect $200. After this we'd get the final group of the second round, and the aura debt has not yet been repaid. The Dark Forces had selected 2 more targets. I haven't talked about Jerry Yao yet, but he's a solver just inside of the top 50 worldwide who got 4th place in the last round. However, he was one of the aforementioned targets, and would find himself in dead last place with an average 2 seconds higher than his previous one. That's pretty tough, but let's go check in on our first seed. How's Timon doing? Well, he dropped a 4 for his low solve, but the rest looked downright demonic. Look at this, 666. After the ritual was complete, he was able to summon a counting 5-3 to clutch the average, but he didn't make top 2. For the final trick, the Servants of the Aura Debt possessed Dylan Miller to drop a 4-digit solve for absolutely no reason at all. This is a 10 in a almost sub-6 average. Dylan had to clutch out BPA to even get into the finals. With this all-around disastrous display concluded, the Aura debt is repaid. All is fair, and we can proceed with the head-to-head finals. The first finals match was Ray Bay vs Zeke McKay, and while Ray would open up and close with 5s, he'd be a lot more inconsistent. Zeke, on the other hand, had a lot more of a stable average, so despite not getting any sub-6s, he only lost this matchup by 0.01. Despite the inconsistency, Ray's 632 average was overall PR, and the 521 single he got to close it out was also overall PR. Seeds 7 and 8, Luke Greiser and Nick Sanchez. Luke counted 2 5s and Nick got 1 sub-7 total. Next. Seeds 5 and 6, Caleb Chen, Dylan Miller. Dylan's average was a little all over the place, some lucky turning, some Ben Cross shenanigans, but also accounting 5-8. Overall, it's an okay average for Dilly Millie. Caleb had a much rougher time. First solve, bro thought he was so slick making use of the blocks, but dog, that cross is not solved. Second solve was genuinely insane. Bro got to ZBL at 2.8 and threw it away the moment he got this 2-gen last layer case, pure L twist, and dropped a 3-gen AUG. He locked up, cooked the AUG, dropped the cube, picked it back up, locked up again, and dropped a 7. ZBLL was 63% of that solve. The next 2 solves weren't amazingly eventful, but with the nothing left to play for, no nerves left buff, he dropped a 4 on the 5th solve. Sure, it was the easier scramble and bro got a really good OLL, but he still cranked out this G-perm in 1.1 to secure the solve, and you know what? That's kinda nice. The second to last group brought us the actual main event of the finals. Since both Matty and Timon underperformed in last round, the finals of the finals happened during the semi-finals of the finals. Just to let us know we're in the big boy matchup, Matty would rip a clean 4.7 right off the bat. But wait, rewind. Was that NA at 3.0? Timon would clap back with a not so clean 4.3 that was faster because it harvested the power of not getting an end perm. Matty would then proceed to severely lock up while influencing his EO, only to do OLL PLL anyway. Timon decided he was going to drop a similar solve. Same cross color, EO influencing, but he did the ZBL. That's why he wins these. But wait, Timon's not done yet. Using plain old regular CFOP, Bro dropped a 3 on a scramble that literally nobody else did well on. Bro had to lock in after not being the GOAT for 5 entire minutes. But as crazy as this solve was, it is not sub Jake Brown. Maddie locked up out of a sub 5, but Timon knew he could 1-up this and dropped a locky 6.8, that's why he's the GOAT! Maddie is not one to be outdone though, and he proceeded to lock up a GA perm for the second solve in a row, dropping an 807 on the best scramble of the set. But wait, this wasn't just a lockup. Maddie was putting advanced trolling techniques into play in order to win this duel. Let's hear about it from the man himself.
During the inspection, so I'm like, let me just switch colors for fun.
Bro literally switched the cross color he was going to do at the end of inspection. 10 out of 10? No notes. Now I'm sure Timon was more than willing to throw out a 9 just to prove a point, but smelling the possible sub 5 average in front of him, he logged in. Clean as hell F2L into cranking out the Ruhong Cornercom A perm to secure a 501 solve and a 490 average. And with the main event over, All-Stars conclude. Wait, hang on, another group. Okay, right. Brian Johnson and Luke Garrett went face to face, literally nothing happened, goodbye.